everyone, and welcome to Portal 64. I'm your host, David, and I think my video called hopefully Misplaced Fear, and it was about RWBY and Genlock and like RT animation. I think that video gave a lot of people the impression that I am not happy with RWBY, and that is actually pretty false. So I'm making this video sort of as a response to that, but also just to like give recognition where recognition is due for RWBY Volume 5, because RWBY Volume 5 is actually my second, maybe with time, my favorite volume of RWBY. RWBY Volume 3 just holds a very strong hold on my heart. I want to start off with conversation scenes. One thing that RWBY has really improved on in Volume 4, but continued to build on for Volume 5 was the conversations and like just the depth and emotion in them. Two scenes come to mind when I think about how good the conversations have improved in this volume, and that is Blake and Ilya in Chapter 7, when Blake is being kind of captured by Ilya, and there's like that conversation of, do you really think that getting rid of me is going to improve the situation for the Faunus across the world of Remnant? And then there's also, in the finale, Yang and Raven having their conversation. Then even also in Chapter 7, Yang and Weiss. What I really like about these conversation scenes was they really show how the voice actors have grown for Team RWBY, and also just how well the writing is done for conversations and like how they reveal a lot of things about the characters, like motivations and backstory, and just kind of showing that, hey, these are complex people. They're not so like flat or 2D characters as they might have been seen back in Volume 1. There's actually a lot to them, and having these conversations that actually just kind of forward the plot, but also reveal more about our characters and their relationships with each other, or lack thereof, is really great to me. Like, you didn't have so much about them. Huge shout out to Anna Hullum and Barbara Dunkelman for that scene in the finale, because I can't imagine how many times it took to just record those lines and like get them right. And also, huge shout out to Kim and Melanie from the animation team for doing the motion capture for that scene. Because, oh my gosh, the scenes, I guess with the conversation scenes, I shouldn't just be applauding like the writing and the voice acting. I should also be applauding the director and all of that. Like, just the camera angles and everything was done really, really well. It was really a piece of cinematic art, and I really appreciate that. As someone who's taken like production classes and studied production, and it is now currently working at a music studio just to do video production, I really, really love what they've been doing with it. So shout out to all of those beautiful people for making some wonderful conversation scenes. Kind of tying into the conversation scenes, but really applies to more than just that in this volume, is this volume really succeeded at getting the audience to feel what they're trying to get them to feel. Kind of going back to the conversation with Yang and Weiss, that scene was very good at making us feel a lot of empathy for the two characters with their different versions of loneliness, and like hearing about Weiss's parents and how her father, being the jack that he is, revealing that he married her mother just for the name. Yang talking about how when Raven left, it was like all upon her to like take care of RWBY. You feel for the characters. You really feel sorry for them. They can kind of bond over their different versions of loneliness and give each other company. The scene starts off with feeling bad and ends up with I feel good about how they're going. Like they kind of see the light in their dark, and you kind of feel that as well with them. And then RWBY comes in and you see her all smiling at them, and you're like, yeah, they're a happy little family. So there's that. But then also in scenes like where Emerald activates her semblance and makes that huge mirage of Salem, you feel scared. Like, holy cow. Like, even though as an audience member you know it's an illusion, Salem's not actually there, you get chilled to the bone. You're like, duh, that is frightening. And so RWBY Volume 5 is just done really well with like striking you with emotion and getting you to feel what the scene wants you to feel. And I really enjoyed that. I don't know. There's no point of watching a show if you can't feel what it's trying to get you to feel, or if you just don't feel anything from the show. There's kind of like no bond between the audience and the show. So thank you, Volume 5, for getting that very, very well delivered. And speaking of Salem, Volume 5, the intro is amazing, and it did a very good job of foreshadowing events without necessarily spoiling the audience. Some people, they were disappointed with the Mirage of Salem, and they're like, oh, the intro actually kind of revealed that. It's like, yeah, but you never expected that to actually happen in the show. In a way, it should actually feel rewarding that you're like, holy crap, like that was... The show was hiding it in plain sight all along. It was really quite amazing. It was a big shock. You were scared. Whereas in the intro of the volume, it's like, oh, haha, it's like symbolic that Team RWBY's fighting against Salem. No, it was Team RWBY was literally in that room with Salem herself as a huge, giant, scary thing. It was really great. So, thank you, RWBY Volume 5, for doing really good foreshadowing and hiding it just in plain sight in every single episode, and no one expected it. Also, this is kind of like a constant thing throughout each volume of RWBY, but I just really, really love how the art improves. With RWBY Volume 4, like, not only did the art improve, but part of me felt like the show felt more 2D animation rather than 3D. RWBY Volume 5 kind of made it feel more 3D, like characters seemed to pop up, they seemed to have more dimension. That like made a huge difference to me. I'm like, this looks more like RWBY to me. Whereas Volume 4 was like, okay, yeah, I recognize these characters and everything, but there's just something off that didn't make it look like RWBY for me. Does that make sense? Whereas RWBY Volume 5 really nailed it home for me with like, yeah, this looks and feels like RWBY again. It made a world of difference to me. A world of remnant of difference to me. We had all these amazing shots, like at the beginning of Alone Together, you get that shot where it's showing Mistral, and it's just slowly going to RWBY just laying down and enjoying the sky, and you see Yang come up with her hair, and she's waving her hair, and it just looked really well done. And there's also like the episode before where you see Crow walking out of that bar after being threatened. You see the rain, and you see when he pulls out his liquor bottle, you could see the texture, the leather in it, and everything just is so well done. So thank you, CRWBY, for very beautiful art. I love you guys. Honestly, it's amazing to see that you guys keep improving with each volume, and it just makes me even more excited for Volume 6 to see, like, okay, can you build upon Volume 5? Like I would love to see how much farther we could go with it. And lastly, my favorite thing, or thing that I think they did really, really well in Volume 5, was the fight scenes. Like, holy smokes. And I didn't have so much of a worry for the fight scenes, because at RTX they showed the Weiss trailer, and the combat in that was amazing. It had rhythm, it had good camera angles, it was just very well done. Like, if there's like a formula to a good fight scene, most, if not all, the fights, no matter how big or small they were in Volume 5, followed it, and it just made a huge difference as a viewer. It was just like, yeah, this looks and feels good. Sure, Yang beating up the gang was super short, but it followed the formula of like how to do fight scenes, and therefore it was satisfying to watch. It was like, yeah, that was really awesome. And don't get me started on Raven versus Cinder. Like, okay, so Raven versus Cinder and Blake versus Ilya, they both hit like the thing that Monty really did and made RWBY stand out at the beginning, and that was like not only good rhythm, but they like involved the environment, which like catching the house on fire and like using that to draw draw people out of their hiding and create more conflict, or oh, the ceiling's now falling apart, so we're gonna be jumping off the rocks and fighting each other that way, and we're gonna be switching swords at some point even, and then like doing all this like Super Saiyan maiden power stuff for Raven and Cinder. They did the fight scenes so well, and it's like, yes, yes, it was amazing, and I loved watching them. And honestly, the Raven versus Cinder fight, I just keep re-watching because of how amazing it was, and just everyone that worked on those fight scenes, just give yourself a pat on the back because those were amazing, and I can't see how you improve and do better with Volume 6. So those are my things that I think Volume 5 did great, and I really look forward to see how they improve upon it, because RWBY has always been a show about growth, and if you look at Volume 1 to Volume 2 to Volume 3 and so on, there's always improvement in some areas, and even though sometimes there are mistakes, they still grow and learn from them and make sure that they could do them better later on. And I just gotta say, there's not a lot of shows that do that. I still love RWBY. Hopefully you guys still love it too. Let me know down in the comments what you guys really loved about RWBY Volume 5, and I will boop you next time.